I'm Brittany Rizzo, and welcome to My Only Friends. Today, I sit down with Shannon Moore. Shannon and I met when she was head of wardrobe on Wizards of Waverly Place, and she is now the supervisor for wardrobe on HBO's Winning Time. She also worked on one of my comfort shows, Hart of Dixie. Shannon has always been the epitome of cool to me, from her fashion style to seeing what an incredible and fun mom she is. This episode reminds me of the Friends episode, the one where Rachel goes back to work. Rachel goes back to work at Ralph Lauren after having a baby and deals with having to balance working in fashion and being a mom, which is something Shannon has mastered beautifully. Please enjoy my conversation with the coolest ever, Shannon Moore. You look so cute. Are you in your work office?
Thanks. I am. We're in the middle of packing up. It's wrap time, like I told you.
Oh my gosh. I always get so emotional when it's like a wrap on a season. Do you? Or is it like a relief?
There is. Yeah. We're in the midst of it. Like when this is a 2-month wrap. So it's gonna be a while, but tonight's our wrap party. So yeah, I'm excited.
Nice. And you're on the Warner Brothers lot, which is my dream.
Yes. Go by the Friends couch every day.
Oh my gosh. And you worked on the Warner Brothers lot before for Hart of Dixie, right?
Hart of Dixie for, I want to say 5 years. Lethal Weapon for another 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, for a lot.
Yeah. It seems to be the place to be.
It is. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you. It's been too long.
Good to see you too. I know.
Your hair's getting so long.
I know. She just cut it the other day. I missed you. You went earlier that day.
I know. I was in there earlier and then. So we should tell everybody how I know you. So yes. I met you, over a decade ago?
My God. Would we say like 2006? Is that or so?
I didn't get on Wizards until 2010.
Oh my God.
I was on the last season, the very last season.
Just one season?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2000. Wow.
I know. So you were head of wardrobe. And
I was on set. I was wardrobe set. Yes.
Wardrobe set. Okay. So tell me the difference.
So right now I'm a department head. I'm a supervisor. So I'm the person that hires the set people and breaks down the scripts and figures out the budget and works with the designer, who's the other department head who does all of the creative designs and whatnot. So back then I was principal set. So I took care of all the actors and made sure all the continuity was good and right. And everybody was wearing the right outfit at the right scene at the right time, sleeves rolled up, keep them rolled up, jewelry on. You know, because as you know, you don't shoot anything from, I guess, in sequential order, right? So if you start on scene 5, you better make sure whenever you get back to scene 4 and 6 that it's all,
right. That is so much to keep in your brain, and I can't imagine doing it.
It's crazy. We have computers for it and booklets and breakdowns and I mean, it's a full-time job for all of it,
Pictures, nonstop pictures.
Yep. It's annoying. We get inside your guys' spaces. We need to see all the photos.
Right. How did you get into wardrobe?
God, I got into wardrobe. I got a degree from Cal State Long Beach in fashion. Did not know anything about this industry. In fact, I heard it was an easy A, and that's the only reason why I did it. And then I got a job at Nike and worked for Nike for about a year or so. And then there was this class that they were doing, an internship. There was one internship in one class that you could meet designers of shows. And one of them was Lori Eskowitz, who's the designer of Will and Grace. She came to our school and I went, God, did she go to the school? No, she didn't. There's somebody else. She went to Fred Siegel. I paid for that one. God, it was such a long time ago. So I paid, it was like $500 or something. And she taught everybody like what she does for a living. And I wrote her a thank you card and said, I mean, let me tell you, thank you cards go make wonders. So I wrote her a thank you card and said I would do anything. I'd work for free. I'd internship just to see what it's like. And I didn't know even what a PA was. I knew nobody in the business. And she took me on as a PA. So while I worked for Nike, I did that a couple days a week. And then it started to snowball from there. So
that is amazing. I didn't know you worked on Will and Grace.
I did.
Jimmy Burrows show. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, it was cool.
So what are the biggest clues in the writing of a script, like for a character, that you look for when you're developing what their wardrobe is going to be like?
Okay. So like location.
Okay.
So where they are, whether or not, what season it is first. That's the first thing you think of is if they're outside and it's Boston right now, they probably are going to be in layers, right?
Right.
Time period. And then when you're actually reading the script, if there's any type of gag, if they're running, they're probably sweating. If they're chasing somebody, if they're shooting, that means there's blood. You probably will need multiples. You might need a stunt double. You might need a photo double. If they're driving, you probably will have a photo double as well, but it might only be waist up. So you note that down. If they're walking in from outside, then I would note that they're taking their jacket off, or, if they're going to bed, I would say putting on PJ, they'd be in PJs, or if there's any type of sex, it would be all nudity, modest coverage. I mean, pretty much everything you read, you just think, if I were in that position, what would I be wearing? That should be a note, know?
So. And then how do you make it so, like, of course, on Friends, it's like, and any show, I mean, wardrobe is another character, right? So it's like Chandler's sweater vests became a joke because that's all he would wear. And then Joey would dress up like him for Halloween. Like, all he did was wear a sweater vest, and they're like, who are you? He's like, what do you mean? I'm Chandler. Mm-hmm. And, Phoebe and how she dresses. And so when you are developing a wardrobe for a specific character, how important are like the colors and everything and the patterns, like, and how long does it take to develop that wardrobe for one specific character to really bring another element to them?
I mean, it's more of a design question more than a supervisor question, but from what I've seen and what I've dealt with is, one, you never want any character to wear the same color as another. So for instance, right now, if looking at us, I'm in a navy sweatshirt, right? I would never put you in a navy sweatshirt because that would be very boring, right? My background, I would think about what the set dressing looks like and what the colors of the walls look like, because there are many times where on Wizards, say, if Alex was an orange and there's an orange couch, she would sit down. So at that point, me, even as a set costumer or anybody on my team, would tell props. Maybe we'd add a pillow. We'd put a blanket, like that blanket behind her, like to just kind of break it up. A lot of times too, network gives you notes. So for instance, like Disney, they don't like black and they don't like white. And they want every color of the rainbow. Right. So,
which is so funny because on Wizards, that's all I wore because we were like the bad kids.
Right.
So I was like,
that's character specific, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is right up my alley. I got to wear a lot of my own clothes because it was all black and white.
Yeah. That's so funny. So and then what the designer does, which is just crazy. I mean, it's so much work, is they make these boards and they work with the ACD and the assistant designer, and they go through the scenes and they go through where these characters are and where they're going to be and what rooms they're going to be, who's going to be that day in the same scene with them. So they know that their colors won't clash or look odd, and it won't look like they're wearing the same thing even. There's just so much to it, and it's just script dependent.
Right. I just love talking to different people in the industry because I don't think a lot of people realize how much goes into even 22 minutes of a TV show. Like, it's so funny because I just remember you on Wizards always being like the coolest, chicest person ever. And I always would just look at you and be like, she's just so effortlessly cool. Like, and even now you still, I mean, even seeing you as much as I have in the past few years, I'm like, you always come in and you always just are wearing the cutest outfits and your necklaces and even your water bottle looks cool with your outfit. And like, you're just effortlessly cool.
You're so sweet. Thank you. Oh my God.
I'm like, have you always been that way, or like, or did you just like really start to pay attention to all these things once you started working on wardrobe?
I don't know. I mean, I just put on what I feel. I guess you kind of are who you hang out with. You start to, wear certain things that maybe your friends might wear and stuff, but I'm in a sweatshirt. I'm doing your podcast in a sweatshirt. Right
okay.
Now.
But it's a Gucci sweatshirt. So get out of here.
But you know what I mean? It's not like, it's so funny. You know, what's so funny is having said that, because we are our worst enemy, right?
Yeah.
I was brushing my hair. I'm like, man, to the girl who totally knows all about hair, you're going to be like, what? She didn't even do her hair.
It looks great. It's getting so long again. When I met you, your hair was like down to here, like past your boobs. And now,
because it's so unhealthy.
No, it's so healthy now. It looks great.
Thank you.
So you're on Winning Time right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wardrobe for that, it's a period piece. I would assume it's a little bit easier because they're in uniform a lot, or no?
I mean, it's not, because it's period. So it's all custom made, and it's all, bless you, it's all period, right? So our designer, Emma, who is amazing at her job, she has to go in and forecast and see exactly how much fabric it takes, what vendor to go to. We have people that all do this, and work in conjunction with her. And there's so much to think about and to do. I mean, we had a forum show, or forum. We recreated the forum, at on stage, and had just a few days ago, right before wrap, 1,100 background. They all have to be in
1,100 background.
1,100. And so then when we're not doing forum, because this is all right now, like the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, it's a lot with the Lakers and the Celtics. And so we then changed it to Boston Garden. And everybody in Boston looks different than LA, even back then. So she works with the background team and creates all the looks. It's all rentals. It's all period. We literally dressed everybody head to toe. When we get off this, I'll show you a photo of this. Or I probably you saw the post that I put on Instagram.
The warehouse, basically, of clothes.
That was a whole stage of all costumes. And then they get wigged. It's bananas. So, and then with COVID mixing with it, it's just to schedule it. It's definitely doing a big period show is way more difficult than a contemporary show.
Absolutely. I can't get over 1,100 background.
Isn't that crazy?
There are times where I'll be like, there are times I can get out of the show, or like get out of the industry brain and like watch a show and not be thinking of like everything going on behind the scenes. And then there are other times I'm watching it when I see a big background group like that. I'm like, that had to be the longest. I was like, I wonder how many times the PA got asked when's lunch that day. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine those days with that many background players, because it's a lot going on.
It's nuts. I normally on like Lethal Weapon, say, or Hart of Dixie, like we had a crew of, I don't know, maybe 11 people total on costumes. I mean, on those days we have like 40 something people, all wearing different hats. I mean, the hardest working team, like everybody on this crew is just, when I do the next show I'd love to snag them all. Hopefully we'll all be together. Like it's a really good team.
So in the position that you are in, do you get to bring people to each show you go on?
Yeah. I do, depending on if the show's already started. For instance, I jumped on this in the middle, so the show was already here. So I met a lot of people here, and took my chances, and it was good. First time I ever worked with Emma too. And we both expressed that we'd like to work with each other again. So if it works out, we would just all go to the next thing. And sometimes it doesn't, if I got offered this, or she went out of town or something and I couldn't go, or, things happen. So depending on each show and what you get offered, I usually take the same people.
That's amazing.
It's so much easier when you start a show. You don't even have to explain how you do your job, Right. Everybody just picks up where they left off, and it's easier for everybody.
You mentioned Hart of Dixie again. Now, Hart of Dixie has some of the best fashion ever, because it's that early 2000s where it's like, Hart of Dixie was what, 2010? That was right. You did it after Wizards.
It was right. I started supervising right after I got married. 2010, 2011, around there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fashion of that show is just, it's so cool. It's for women. I mean, for men, I feel like fashion doesn't change a whole lot. Like they could always just wear a flannel and jeans and it's in style. But I could imagine Heart of Dixie was so much fun because it was in that time of a lot of layers and the chunky jewelry and like the little tiny coats that really didn't do anything, but they were there for fashion. Yeah. And then it was also in Bluebell where you have these like giant dresses and very like prim and proper clothing for different people.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have any fun stories of working on Heart of Dixie?
Oh man. I mean, it was all fun, right? I mean, God, I'm trying to think of exactly the story on that show. I mean, everybody got along so well. And there was just, I mean, we were one big happy family. I mean, God, I can't think of something specific that I could say on the air really, but it was a good time though. And it was a big learning curve for me because it was the first time I'd ever supervised a show. So that was the first time that I went from key to our supervisor had left and our designer Meredith gave me a shot. So, and Meredith is just the most amazing, incredible person ever and design all of those looks. Yeah. She did such a great job.
And so you met your husband on set. So he also works in the wardrobe department.
He does. He's on the Rookie right now.
Okay.
I met him at the Costume House. So I was working on helmets for Transformers, the original Transformers.
Oh, nice.
And he was wrapping the movie Jarhead.
Nice.
Yeah. That's
amazing. And you have 4 children now.
4 boys. Yeah.
So I know it's like just like such a, of course they're mowing the lawn outside right now. Why wouldn't they be mowing the lawn?
I can't hear it.
Okay. Well, that's good. I know that it's like such a cliche to ask this question and it's so annoying for women because it's like they never ask the man, like, how do they do it? But you work on set. It's a very demanding hours, like incredibly demanding hours. And you're also keeping track of a million different things. How do you manage that and 4 boys that are they're all what, like 1 to 2 years apart?
Yeah, I have my oldest is 9, Jameson, 6-year-old Declan, 4-year-old Kylan, and 2-year-old Rocklin. So yeah.
So your hands are full and they are like boys. Like every time I see you posting on a story, they are fearless. They're romping on something in the kitchen. Right. They're like jumping in a pool. How do you manage to separate work and you know, parenting and also like being present in both of them? Because I think a lot of people in LA or in the industry get scared that it has to be one or the other. Like, well, I can't have an acting career. I can't have a career in the industry if I have children. So I have to make this work first and then have children.
Right.
So what is your advice for people on that? How have you made it work?
I make it work just by doing it one step at a time. As weird as that sounds, like I don't think of the big picture of like, oh my God, I've got to get Jameson through his first year of 4th grade now. And like, oh my God, all these things are going to happen. And they all want to do sports and they all want to do all these things. So when you look at it big picture, it's explosive, right? And it just makes your head spin of like all these different things. I have an ongoing calendar that I share with Jason that he hates to look at because it gives him anxiety because there's constantly things that I'm adding into it. But it's just day by day. And I mean, as cliche and lame as it sounds, I mean, like, I live for them, you know. I'm doing a lot more now lately to learn to like live more for like, not more for myself than them, but more for myself in general, because I've just, all I think about and all I want to do is like, you know, be there for them and be like the best mom that I can be, that you can almost forget to have your own sense of independence and life. Right. So to me, having a job, especially like a supervisor role it means a lot because it helps. I don't know. I guess it just helps keep me on track for what I've always loved. I love my job. I love people. And I love everything I do in my job and all the people that I meet and I love the business. So that helps a lot. I also have designers that understand my situation. So when I used to be on set, those hours were like 12 to 14 hours on set, right? It was clearly you've done it, you know it. Yeah. This job, I could do a lot at home too. So I do budgets, I do scripts, I do a lot of things that I could do remote. So basically when I get called from a designer to do a job, the first thing I tell them is, listen, I'm a mom and I need to have dinner with my kids and I need to be there and to take them to school. And one of them's going to get pink eye one day and I'm going to have to stay home. One of them's going to get COVID. We're going to have to stay home. It is what it is. Having said that, I don't miss a deadline. I don't miss a meeting. And everything I say that I'm going to do gets done. And if we have good people that work on our team that know what they're doing, none of that should be a problem. So right. I would say probably like 8 out of 10 designers like are totally cool with it, like shockingly enough. And I prove myself. And, you know, there's definitely times where like, I'll be like, Jason, you got to stay, you know, you got to go home early for me, or I'll get a nanny if I know it's a big meeting day, or if I know that budgets are due. And, you know, it's just, like I said, though, if it's one day at a time, if I knew how big this show was, you know, right. with all of this, like before I would, you know, you just gotta do things in segments. Right.
Right.
But, yeah.
And do you find that like, because I'm at this point in my life where I'm really having to stick up for myself and my needs and voice them. And it's hard for me. And do you find
like for work or for in general?
Yeah, for work or in general, like with, you know, things in my career or things in my daily life with friends or family, of like sticking to a boundary. And when you say like, you know, you tell them like, hey, look, I have kids and this is how it's going to go down. Was that hard for you to do in the beginning? Or were you always very good at being like, nope, these are my requirements. And if you can't meet them, bye.
I mean, yeah, it's also like, I have no option. Like I have kids and I'm a mom. And like, ultimately at the end of the day, not to be morbid, but like when you're like laying on your deathbed, looking at your life, I'm not going to think of the show Winning Time. Right.
Right.
I'm going to think of like my kids, and I'm going to think of, I did everything I can and my kids are the best they can be because of that. So that's ultimately like, they're my most important job. Right. Even though this is important, but like, that's just, I mean, and also it comes from like, my father always taught me like growing up, like no matter what you do, no matter who you work for, no matter who your friends are, like don't take shit from anybody. And if somebody's going to say something that's going to make you feel upset, like you don't need to be around it. Like there's a lot more, you know, doesn't matter how much money you make. If you love what you do, the money will come. Like, so I just kind of take that with me. And I think to myself, like, what will my dad do right now? Like if this person was saying this to him, and it helps me because he was kind of a hard ass from Brooklyn. So it makes me go like, I'm not going to take it. So I haven't really had to. And I think that like, once you prove yourself, thank God, knock on wood, I've done it enough that people know that I'm good at what I do. But once you prove that you can do it, like there's really no reason for someone to say no, you know?
Right.
I think it's really important to stand your ground. And I think it's really important to listen to yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's why, you know, I've always looked up to you. Like and
you're going to make me cry.
Don't cry. Don't make us both cry. I can't see you cry and then I'll cry. But I do, because I see how much work you put in. And I also see like every kid's birthday is like the most special thing in the world. And like every holiday, and it reminds me a lot of my parents, because they, you know, I'm going to be 32 and my dad still, don't cry, Shannon. I'm going to be 32 and my dad still, I mean, Santa still writes me a letter every year for Christmas, you know, and like, that's the kind of mom you are too, which I love it. And I love seeing like that you can have both. You can be a really good present mom and also have an incredibly successful career doing what you love. Like you show me, and I'm sure a lot of people in your life, that it's very possible and it's very rewarding. And you do it all while being kind to everybody, which it's just a huge accomplishment. So like you said, like you're not going to be on your deathbed thinking about like, oh no, did I get the right continuity for season 2? You're going to be thinking of like, I worked really hard and I made a really amazing life for my kids to always remember. And so I think you are the coolest mom. I swear to God. Oh even this morning, your story, I saw your kid in the kitchen going down a ramp on like a little 4-wheeler. And I'm like, It's 8 a.m. What are they doing?
I made sure I was like, you cannot do this until your teeth are brushed, until you've had breakfast and you're fully dressed. And then yes, you could do like 2 rides and then we got to go.
Yeah. But it's so fun.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I'm also a kid. So, I mean, I think I've had an abundance of energy before I had children. So the children kind of made me chill out a little bit more, which is a happy medium. So yeah. You're so
thank you. I mean, I mean it. I really do. I just think you're the coolest person I know. But with all that being said, when things do get hard and you are going through a point of like exhaustion or like what is going on, like I just need a minute to myself. What do you do in those moments?
I run.
So you do run a lot.
Yeah. I run when I'm happy too. So every time you see me running, I'm not bummed.
Yeah.
But running got me through my father's passing. Whenever like we have like a marital fight, like I go for a run. Whenever I just feel overwhelmed, like I really, even if it's a crappy run, like as long as just I'm out there and I'm just kind of feet on pavement, I need it. And music. I mean, music's awesome. So between the two of those, I mean, it does. It helps me get through it. It helps me. I mean, for me, working out, like absolutely, if I don't work out in the morning, my day is, I'm exhausted and I'm not who I want to be. And I got to get those endorphins going. So, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, talking to yourself and like, thinking things through and laying in bed. I feel like, mental health out there, there's such a stigma to it that like everyone's afraid to say they have anxiety. Like everyone's afraid to say they're having a bad day or like, all of our social media is like loaded with all these things that are just always so happy. So everybody thinks everybody's perfect. And that's not the case. The second you get to know anybody, you hear their story and you hear the things that they've gone through. And there's not one person that I know that hasn't gone through some hard times or is going through it now. And I think like, it's just to kind of put that into perspective and think about like just how lucky we are, take a break, take a little breather. And my kids are like, they're medicine, like as much as it's exhausting, the second I have a hard day and I come home and they're jumping on me, it's like the best thing in the world. I come home or I pick them up from school and they run to me like, it's the best feeling. So sometimes even like on a really shitty day at work, like say that work is just a nightmare and I go home and, you just hang out with the kids, do some Legos, video games,
Oh my gosh. When we're done, I'm going to show you my Lego sets.
Oh my God. Really?
I have a ton of Lego sets.
You have to look at what's on my coffee table right here.
Dying. Amazing. Wait, hold on. I don't know if you can. It's the Friends Apartments.
Oh my God.
The Friends Apartments in Central Perk. During COVID, I could not stop doing Legos. Like, could not stop.
Oh my God. I love it. That's therapy right there.
It is just something to do with your hands and like, you have to be present. And I think too, that's like, when I'm home with my dogs is when my mental health is the best because I have to be present with them. You're taking care of something. You can't, or with my nephew, when I'm home with him and he's there, you can't think of anything else for 2 seconds because you have to make sure this little human or being is protected and safe and not putting something in their mouth they shouldn't and doesn't fall. And like, so it forces you to be more present. Absolutely.
It does.
Do you want to talk about like how you stepped away and did Wondermind for a little bit or no?
I mean, I can talk about anything. I mean,
just cause I wanted to see like what made you want to take that leap and then what made you ultimately decide that you missed wardrobe and like set design and stuff like that more.
I took the leap because it still is. It's such an amazing company. And like I said earlier, there's such a stigma with mental health out there that here's a company that is trying to take that away or not trying, but they're slowly taking it away. And hopefully it'll continue to get bigger and succeed and, get bigger and better. And it's an amazing company. And I was really, really worn out from this job, like in general, like it's like we've said, it's a lot of hours and it's a lot of crap you've got to deal with just like any job. And one of my best friends, Mandy Tiffy, was like, why don't you jump on board? And she told me about the company, and it's sounded amazing. And I loved it. I mean, I still love it. I'm still open to even going back. Like, it wasn't anything that I just was going through some stuff, leaving the craziness of this world where like, it's not an office job. And like, I'm running around and doing all these things and I don't have time to think about things, and things are crazy. And then just basically going to an office job where it's more sit down and it's more dealing with obviously mental health and stuff. For me, I just kind of, after a while, I was like, okay, oh my gosh, I think I need to like run around again. Like, it wasn't really necessarily anything crazy. And also in the scheme of things, we were doing a podcast with her company as well. And so she's just in the middle of doing like a whole reorganization there with the podcast business. And I think I probably plan on maybe joining back there and hanging out a little bit too, doing a little bit of both. So
that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love everything that they're doing with that. And it is, you know, I've talked about it on this podcast before. Like, Selena was a huge reason why I went to outpatient therapy, because, you know, it was one of those things where I saw how open she was with talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, like, if this woman can be so open and honest to the entire, not just like country, the world, mm-hmm. because she's, you know, so globally huge. Like, if she could be open and honest about it and come out on top, then like, I can do this too. This is totally fine. Like, she gave me that permission to be like, yeah, it's okay to take care of yourself and ask for help. And, you know, I did. And what's interesting is like, there were posters. We had like the group therapy room, and there were posters of people's like favorite lyrics or quotes and everything. And there was just one picture of Selena Gomez in the corner. Like, I think she does help a lot of people in that sense. So it's like, with what she's doing with Wondermind and bringing all these different awarenesses to mental health and different disorders. Like, I do love that more people are starting to talk about it and starting to feel, you know, like they're understanding it, because we can talk about it all we want, but it's different to understand it. And I think I've had conversations in my own daily life with people where a family member was like, well, I don't think I have depression. And she was telling me different symptoms she was having and feelings. And I was like, well, depression doesn't mean you're crying in bed all day long. Mm-hmm. Like, depression looks completely different for so many people. And I think just having that small conversation opens up an entire world for somebody else to go, oh, maybe I do have this and I can get a hold of it and I can tackle it and also live with it and develop new tools. So I do think it's just incredible that someone of her level and with such an audience is doing something like that, because it is helping. And you know, even if it's just one person, it's a ripple effect. So I love that. I love that you got into that too. And you took a leap of faith, and you left a job that you were super comfortable with. And then you went and did this thing, and it's okay to be like, yeah, I tried it and I gave it my best and I loved it, but I also really miss this, and that's okay. Like,
totally. It was really hard getting calls for work and not doing it, you know, and not being like, oh, sure, I'll do that show. And after a while, I was like, okay, I think I need the crazy. Like, I think I'm so used to it. I've been doing it for 20 years now, almost, you know?
Yeah,
so
I get it. I'm having that same experience right now where I got a new job, and I've worked in salons in LA my entire life, and now I'm not. And I never thought I'd miss it. And I do. Because I'm like,
what are you doing now?
I'm a nanny.
Oh, you are. So you are like nannying.
Nannying an assistant, which it's great in its own right. But at the same time, it's like, I miss the camaraderie of my coworkers. Yeah. I miss going in and, like you said, the craziness of it all. I miss the loud music. I miss, I need you over here. This person is late, or, just like juggling different hats, because like you said, it makes it so you can't focus on anything else. Yeah. And you just have to focus on what is right in front of you. And like, I miss that one-on-one connection I was getting with people and talking and catching up with their lives and like, and people my own age. It's just, but sometimes you have to make these hard decisions to go to another job
Right.
so that other aspects of your life get better. But then it makes you go, okay, well, how do I still have this like creative outlet to like focus and still feel connected to myself in a way? Like, where can I go elsewhere that's not backwards in my career trajectory or financial trajectory, so that I can still feel like I have that part of me? So I totally get that. And, you know, I think a lot of it comes out of fear of change for me. But it's definitely a lesson in like, look, nothing is permanent. Like, you can always change your mind and you can always try something else. And like, what works out, works out. And if it doesn't, like, go back to the drawing board. Because like you said, we're not going to be on our deathbeds thinking about like, oh, did I make the right decision in my job?
Exactly.
You just want to be happy.
Yeah. It's the most important thing.
Well, the person who's not going to be happy is this lawnmower guy in like 5 seconds. I'm about to tell him to like go take a lunch break or something. I'm like, come on. Like, today of all days. So
funny. Is
there a show that you watch where you just like love the wardrobe so much, where you're like, I really want to work on that next?
No. Is that terrible? I think it's
and we'll cut that.
No, because here's the thing. This is probably why I'm not a designer. I'm a supervisor. So I think of more like, I would love to work on a comedy. Like, I am so used to cop shows and Suits that like, I'd rather not do that. Like, and it's funny, we all make jokes on this show where it's like, okay, maybe our next show could be like a Friends. Like, I would love something just cheerful and contemporary, and like, there's not really any gags. Like, there's nobody that's really like spilling things all over themselves and like blood, and like just something that's just like easy and fun, you know?
Well, you know, I'm going to bring up the fact that, How I Met Your Father came around to you and you're not there, and it still breaks my heart.
Listen, it didn't work out anyway. I don't even remember what happened with it, but I know.
Every day I'm like, oh, like, I just started watching How I Met Your Father. The new season came out yesterday and I'm like, oh, Shannon could have been working on this show.
It's funny how many texts we get. And like, I know. Listen, my son, Jameson, is like, are you ever going to work on a show where I can watch it? Because the Wizards, like, that's all the only thing that I've done that he can actually watch. Everything is just like bad language and blood and, you know, there was sex. And I'm like, oh God, like, I just would rather not be in a boring suit land anymore. You watch. The next thing I'm get is going to be like,
it's going to be Suits 2.0. It's
going to be like called Suitsville or something. I know. Yeah.
That's so funny. So you had said that the show that helped you through a difficult time or like comforted you was Schitt's Creek. So you were pregnant with your 4th son.
Yeah. And Brooklyn.
And you watched a lot of Schitt's Creek. What made you go towards Schitt's Creek?
I think I've seen it 5 times. Somebody just told me I had to check it out, that it was funny and happy. And I needed something that was kind of mindless in the beginning, because I would literally always watch it just when I was breastfeeding. And like, so I was always kind of doing something, and I just wanted something funny, and I heard it was funny, and it's just so feel good funny. And I feel like everybody can relate to it. And, it just, I don't know, it just warms my heart. And and you take this family that is totally, talk about change, you know, gets you know, it totally leaves their element and their money and everything that they have, and they get stuck in this motel, and they figure out how to live life, and they do, and they kick ass with it, right? And they just reinvent their relationships with each other. And every single episode to me was just something that just made you laugh and just made you not have to worry about somebody dying and worry about somebody killing somebody and worry about, there's just nothing, like, it could be, besides like some language, like it could be on with my kids. I don't care. You know, it's something that you don't have to worry about as a parent watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there a specific character on there that you were drawn to the most?
I mean, Alexis is just amazing.
She's so good.
Oh my God. I mean, she's just hilarious. I mean, just the dynamic with her. And I mean, everybody really, I mean, Moira, I think that's what's so great about it, is I don't really even have a favorite. I mean, every single one of them was just so awesome in their role that, I mean, I heard that there might be a movie. There probably won't be, but it would be so incredible.
It's interesting because with Schitt's Creek, I didn't get into it until like it was out for a couple years. And then
because wasn't it out before the 2020? Wasn't it like it was at least a year or so?
Yeah. And then it was like a slow burn for me. Like it started out and I was like, okay, all right. And then I put it down. And then I think during COVID, like the pandemic, when it first started, I picked it back up and I couldn't stop watching it. My family got into it.
Yeah.
And there was one episode, I think, when Alexis graduates and her mom shows up. I was sobbing. I was like, what is happening to me? Like all of a sudden I was hooked into this show and I'm like unwell crying over her mom showing up to the graduation.
Oh yeah.
It is. It's one of those things where you just love those TV shows that are just mindless and you know that nothing bad is going to happen. And like there's even parts of some sitcoms that give me anxiety because I don't like the storyline because I know like someone's breaking up or something.
Right.
But when it's like Friends, it's like, oh, well, I know everything works out because I've seen it 300 times. So it's okay.
Right. Totally. And I think Schitt's Creek has enough mindless, super funny, silly things. And then they just like, at least when you least expect it, they slip in like a feel good, like family moment where it's like her showing up, you know?
Right.
I mean,
and the part where David's in the field.
Oh like, my God. With the Amish.
It's so funny. Yeah. I started watching it again this morning, like before our interview. And I was like, oh man, I want to go back to this because
I haven't watched it in a while. I need to watch it.
It's just, it feels so good to laugh out loud at something just so ridiculous and like something that gives you the permission to feel a certain way.
Totally.
Because did you ever watch Parenthood?
I didn't.
Did you know
no.
that show? Well, I was having this like a couple weeks out here where I just felt like I was go, and I was just trying to push through it. And I didn't want to like break down and cry because I knew I had to get things done. I knew I couldn't just like take a moment or else it might turn into a week if I took that one moment. And I was watching Parenthood and there was a scene happening and it just opened the floodgates. And it gave me the permission to cry. Like, even though I was crying at that show, it was more like, oh no, I'm crying about everything right now. And I just needed something to tell me like, it's okay. Cry and get it out. And I felt so much better afterwards, like a weight lifted off. And it's the same thing with laughing. And, you know, you want to watch these shows that give you the permission to feel something and just break that barrier down. So when they do, you do feel connected to these characters more and like they are part of your life because they're doing you a service in a way.
Yep. Well, also to piggyback on that in a more interesting way that I'm dealing with. So Jameson had to read, he has to read this story that's like, have you ever read that story? The Island of the Blue Dolphin?
No.
So it's a story that's been around for like 20, 25 years. And it's about like Native Americans. It's great, like all the lessons, learning, whatever. But there's so much death in it. And in the middle of the story, don't want to give it away, but I have to. So he's hysterically crying and he's reading it at my mom's house because he's there before I pick him up. And in this particular chapter, this little boy who's 6, who he got to know for like 6 chapters, gets murdered by the wolves. And it describes his wound. And then his sister has to pick him up and carry him to like, it was like this whole situation, right?
They're teaching this in school?
Yeah, they're reading. They've been doing it for like 20 years. I actually spoke to the teacher about it because, you know, like I don't want to be the mom that like ever is like, my kid won't do this. But he was really affected by it. And so it reminds me when you were talking about that, you want to have the ability to, you know, laugh at something or cry at something. And this almost did the opposite, I guess. Like it's because he's unfortunately had to deal with death before more than I feel like other boys his age right now. And boys and girls his ages, he took it in. And even though this part was fictional, like he had a very hard time with it. And then before bed, I spoke with him about it. I read it again and it's terrible. Like I can't stand the book, but it's part of the curriculum. So it is what it is. And he laid there. I let him sleep with me that night. And he laid there and he was like, but mom, like he was only 6 and he was such a good kid. And why did he die? And why is there death in the world? And then it just snowballed, you know, and it just went into like that age where, you know, they think about things and they, you know, have all the questions and stuff. So I feel like you can, if you keep watching and reading the hard stuff too, it could trigger, that could trigger depression and keep it going as well. You know? Absolutely.
Absolutely. I have to, you know, I don't watch a lot of shows that deal with violence or death or anything scary. Like I'm way too sensitive. Like I'm the same way. Like I will be way too sensitive. I mean, and I will carry that energy with me throughout the rest of my day if I watch an episode of television. So I have to be very careful of what I watch on TV because it definitely affects me in that same way. And that makes me like have this question of, so with having 4 boys, you're dealing with so many different personalities, so many different energies, different things that each of them are sensitive to. Do you talk to them about mental health, and like what age did you have to start like having these more serious conversations with them?
I talked to Jameson about it, and I feel like Declan and my younger ones are a little too young to just understand it.
Right.
But one of Jameson's best friends takes medication for his ADHD. And so he's very aware of, and he knows that I worked at a mental health place, and he asked me what that meant. And I explained it to him. And so he's very well aware. And I think more than anything, like every single day, I asked them what they did in their day. I asked them how their day was. I asked them who they played with. And if they played by themselves, why did you play by yourself? Declan right now is playing by himself a lot. So I'm asking him, like, why did you play by yourself? Like, is there a reason? Like, it's super fun, totally cool. But is there like, I just feel like the more you're connected, the more you can pick up on things. But, you know, there's no book for this, you know? So it's like the most you could do is just kind of be present. And I tell Jameson all the time, just the other day, I was asking him, do you have any questions for me? Like, are there any like weird things going around at school that you might have questions for? And of course it's like, no, I'm fine, you know, but he knows when there's times where he has questions and he's curious about something, or his friend might talk about something that's crude or he doesn't understand. He'll come to me, and there's different ways. He'll text me when he feels bad. So I always know, like before bedtime, if I get a text that's like, I did something at school, or like, I feel bad because I jumped in the swimming pool and said the F word, like underwater, like, you know, like really 9-year-old things, you know, that like he made fun of somebody at school for the first time a couple weeks ago. And so it had to be addressed, and he felt very bad about it. So I feel like the more you're just involved and the busier you keep them, my rule is everyone has to have a passion. So I don't care if it's a sport or if it's an instrument or if it's acting or if it's painting. I just want to keep them curious and passionate about something and not bored, so they don't go wander.
Right. Yeah. That makes total sense. So what, I guess my last question for you before you have to go is the best piece of advice you would give somebody for their mental health. Like, what is something that you hold on to that helps you just keep the balance between work and family?
I would say that it takes a village, and the best advice that I would give any of my friends of stuff that I'm dealing with and loved ones that I'm dealing with that's going through stuff that right now is to, one, always check on your friends and always make sure you're being checked on, whether you're asking for help or whether you're not taking help when you should be, and just knowing that you're not alone, as lame as that sounds. It's so important. And I feel like there's so many people out there that think that it's not okay to have a problem. I'm crazy, you know, I'm crazy. Like, this person thinks that I, you know, have depression, so I'm nuts and they're not perfect. What's wrong with them? It just turns into things like that, where it's like, no one's perfect. Everyone's going through something. And there are times where, you know, you could try to brush it under the rug and not not deal with it. But the problem is the more you do that, it's not going anywhere. So,
yeah, you just like the monster gets bigger and bigger.
The monster gets bigger. And if you can't get out of your own way and you can't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? How are you going to care for anybody else? And that's even just friendships. How do you nurture a friendship when you can't just nurture, what's going on inside yourself? So,
right.
I would I don't know really what kind of advice if I answered that question, but I think it's like one of those things, like when you're in an airplane, you put the mask on before you help others. It's the same type of thing. So you can't expect to have a good relationship with work, with friendships, with love, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. That's so good. It's so true.
And I'm learning. But listen, I say this as if I'm like, I'm learning. Like it's as cliche as it sounds, like with 2023, like I made promises to myself that I don't do New Year's resolutions or anything. And just to like get to know me again and get to know like what makes me tick. Like I'm done having babies. So it's all about nurturing my kids and their relationships. But it's like, okay, who am I? Like,
right.
What do I love and what's new about me that I didn't know I love and all of that. So I think it's so important to, we all keep evolving and not to look at the past and be like, that's who I used to be. It's like, no, there's so much more that we can be,
Yes, it's so true. I think definitely in my age range right now, it's like, I'm turning 32 in March, but I still feel like I'm 19 sometimes. And like, you're realizing like, oh, that's who I was in the past. It's not who I am anymore. And like, it's okay that I'm evolving and I can let that part of me go. You don't have to be so attached to who you were all the time. Like, and I love what you said about like falling in love with new things and getting to know yourself better. Like it's exciting and it's fun. And while it can be scary because change is scary, it's also so exciting. And like, it's like every day is a brand new day, as cheesy as that sounds. Like, it's so true.
It's so true. It is. It's so true. I somebody once said the other day when they weren't getting along with somebody else, and it just resonated with me. And it was like, they've changed. I'm still the same person, but they've totally changed. And I said to them, like, what's wrong with that?
Right.
It's okay that they changed. And maybe it's not okay that you haven't changed, maybe, everybody evolves. We're all supposed to keep changing. I mean, shit, if I was the same person that I was at Wizards, like I could not take care of 4 children. Like, I was a party girl. I was running around and I mean, and I still absolutely go out and have a good time, and I have a good time with my kids, and I'm still but I'm a different mom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, God, theirs was such a fun time. Like, I wish I can just like encapsulate, like, I don't know anybody who was having a bad time during that period.
No, it was so fun.
Everybody had so much fun. Everybody was so nice. Like, I still, whenever I see, like, I saw Tanya, the makeup artist.
I just saw her on Young Sheldon. Yeah.
That's right. She works right by you. And it was like, we were so excited to see each other again, like after 10 plus years, and it's just like, I heard from Todd this morning.
Oh my God.
I know.
Are you why? What happened with that? Are you
I want to have him on the show. And,
cool.
So it was just like, there's not a single bad egg from that show. And it really encapsulated a time in my life that was so fun and the beginning of my career, essentially. So
mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just have such a special place in my heart for it. Not even like solely just because of the experiences and the people it brought into my life. And again, the people I've learned from it, whether it be you or Roxy or following Selena's career or David DeLuise, I've learned from so many people on that show, which is just going back to the very beginning, like you are what you hang out with. And you just kind of take those things on. And when it's, all a bunch of people who are very smart and kind, you're setting yourself up for success, which is important to do.
Oh, it's so true. And from that, I mean, my best friend, I mean, Mandy and Brian, they're like, I mean, I see them all the time. They're two of my best friends in the world. And Selena, she was in my wedding and she's obviously all over the place. And I mean, whenever she shows up to things that we do, like, I just love her. I mean, she's still my little sister, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, even like the little reunions that we haven't had one in forever. I guarantee you, if I put a reunion at my house, there would be like at least 50 of us there, you know? I mean, because everybody, it's all we talk about, like, like shows. And, you know, I do remember being on that show. I wonder if it was Brian. He was camera. I think it was Brian or Tom. But they came up to me and they're like, you don't know it, but this is one of the best shows you'll ever work on. Like, this is one of the best families you'll ever have. This is very hard to come by. And because it was like my first main job, like being principal set, I believed it. But it's almost like when you have a baby, everybody tells you it's going to be the best love. And you're like, yeah, I believe it. But until you have the baby, you're like, oh shit, like this is really amazing and magical, you know? Right. And so it was the same thing. Like, once you start going on other shows and like, I mean, I've definitely made friends and I've definitely had like awesome shows and had some people that I call family from shows, but to the extent of like the Wizards family, like it's just there's no comparison. Like, I have like a half a dozen like best friends in the world from it that, you know.
Right.
And we should all get together. Cause I guarantee you, if we all got together, like, it would be a fun, really late night.
Absolutely. I say do it and heat up that pool, because I see that pool and I'm like, all right, I'm just waiting for my invite for that hot tub.
All right. I will. Absolutely.
It'd be so fun. It would just, it's so fun. And I do think those relationships too in this industry and in this town are so important to hold on to, because you're not going to find them everywhere. And I think we've both learned, especially you in recent shows that you've worked on, that not every set is a family or respectful or just a good unit to be a part of. Sometimes it is just a job and you have to go in and go out and do your job and leave.
Right.
And that is it's like, it's the way of the world, but you are spending so much time with these people, and like, it becomes, you're spending more time with these people than you are at home half the time. So you want to feel like it is another family. So we got so lucky with Wizards. We really did.
I know.
Yeah. I say we all get together soon. I had this one question on here because I just feel like you always look so amazing. I had to know, what is always in style for you? Like, when you're getting ready, what is the outfit where you're like, I cannot go wrong with this? I know that's such a silly question, but I feel like the older I've gotten, I'm like, I just wear what's comfortable. I don't even care anymore. And I don't try to like make anything look cute. So I'm like, for all of us, on behalf of everybody out here who chooses comfort over style,
including me, clearly.
Again, in your Gucci sweatshirt. What's the one like article of clothing that like always ties everything together for you?
I mean, you said it, my earrings. I love myself some jewelry. For me, which totally doesn't make sense with jeans and a hoodie of what I'm doing. Usually I wear, this is very oversized. If I'm wearing like long sleeves and a hoodie, then I'm in like shorts and I'm showing legs. Like for me, I feel like something's got to come out. So like if I'm wearing like skinny jeans, like, and I'm wearing my pants and you got to show your arms, you got to show something.
Right. That makes sense.
Sneakers with fancy. I'm a big fan of like sneakers with a dress, but yeah, I mean, I would probably say I go over more. I'm into really oversized things right now and then showing legs. That's kind of my thing. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with a pair of ripped jeans and a flannel and a baseball cap either. You know?
Yeah. But well, if only we could all be as effortlessly cool as you.
You crack me up. Oh my God. Have you seen me at the soccer games? I'm a nut job. Like,
oh my gosh. And what would you say to somebody who wanted to get into the wardrobe business in the industry? Like, what would you say? Like, okay, this is where you start and this is the attitude you have to have.
You have to be persistent with this business in general. If you aren't persistent and you take things personal, then this job is not for you and the business is not for you. I would definitely say to go to a costume house. Western House is where I started. Western Costume House is where I started. And that's in the Valley. And the way that I got in the union is I went there every single week with my resume and threw my resume down and was like, when are you going to hire me? When are you going to hire me? Mm-hmm. I was that annoying person. And then finally they called me and they hired me. With me now, I like to pay it back and pay it forward. I speak at Cal State Long Beach. I go back and talk to students, and I've gotten people in through that. And I've talked to students, gotten to know them, and I've done the thank you card. So I give my email out, and people who write to me and say that they would love to learn. I've been successful with getting to know them and trying to mentor them and help them. And I've gotten a couple people in the union that way. Like I said, if there's a will, there's a way. And if you're persistent and you're a hard worker and you really want to prove yourself, you're going to do it. That's how I did it. Like I didn't know one person in the business, one person. It's crazy. So if there's a will, there's a way. So I would definitely say to go to a costume house, DM you, get my info, and
yeah, you are so great. You practice what you preach. And like, when you say DM you and get my info, like I just did that for another friend where I was like, she needs help with this. And you're like, okay, here's the contact. Tell her, me, blah, blah, like so nice. And like, that doesn't happen a lot in Los Angeles. Like there's not a lot of people who are willing to just be super helpful. There's a lot of gatekeeping out here. So yeah. I really appreciate that of what you do and like just how kind you are. It's really amazing.
Oh, thank you. Someone did it for me, and it's not that hard to be kind,
Absolutely. Well, Shannon, I love you so much. Thank you for doing this. It was so
having me.
Of course. I'm sorry about the lawnmower for half of it.
Oh my God. Don't even worry about it. I can't, like I said, I'm hearing they're doing the Joker, Lady Gaga's on the lot.
Oh my God. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So they're backing up lots of like all the trailers and everything. And yeah, it's like
nice.
Right out there.
But and you've seen Courtney Cox a couple times on the lot too.
She's very nice.
You just like walked up to her in her car. You're like,
yeah, I had no idea it was her. And
I just love that so much.
Because I wanted to buy that car. So I wanted to know how she liked it.
Yeah. That is so funny.
So she was funny. Like, oh, I like it. She's looking at me like, wow, that was quite ballsy. She was so sweet.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And she likes her car. So it was good.
Great. Awesome. That is so funny. Okay. Well,
thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for doing this, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your time off.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You have a good day. I hope your cough gets better.
Oh gosh, I know.
All right. Talk to you
later.
Bye.